goes a little bit more into depth into that thinking and logic in his ETF Daily Notes entitled Crowded Sidelines. So you can take a look at that one there as well. Okay, so as usual, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, go ahead and use that Talk to Us link at the top of the page. We'll try to get around to it if we can. Obviously, it's not an immediate chat room where we're going to get answers out there on the board, but eventually somebody sifts through all the garbage that comes through there. Please avoid the pump and dump of penny stocks. It makes our life easier to filter through the good stuff, and we'll eventually try to get around to your questions. Again, constructive criticism is welcome. If you like our service, if you don't like it, if you think there's ways we can improve, if you want more strategies, more education, more technicals, more fundamentals, more anything you want, we're completely open to suggestions. So go ahead and use that Talk to Us link at the top of the page and let us know how we're doing. Thanks.
We've reached the top of the hour, and that means it's time to dive into our Trader Talk segment for today. Today we're going to feature Damon Southward, aka Scalp Trader. Good morning, Damon.
Hey Jim, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. So I was watching some of your trades today and found them quite compelling. You got involved in a long, an HEAR, and then a short, an EA, and I believe these two had the trade itself had something to do with each other. Why don't we go through those particular trades? We'll start with HEAR, and what did you find in that one that you found it so compelling to jump in the pre-market?
So I noticed that Electronic Arts was up dramatically in pre-market, about 8% on their release of numbers for their new game Apex Legends, which had I think 25 million users, and they just released the game last week. They kind of put it out there without much fanfare, and it has just really picked up a lot of momentum. So it looks like global youth have another reason not to go outdoors for for a period of time for the next year or so. This game is picking up a lot of the Fortnite players and some of the other battle royale type of games that have come out. And it's created a big pop in Electronic Arts stock price. Their numbers have been down relatively significantly. Stock got hit on earnings recently, but it's made a really strong recovery based on the early reception for the Apex Legends game.
All right, so you jumped in HEAR as a play on that, so assuming that it has the same type of fanfare, if you will, that Fortnite had, this being the EA Apex Legends game, here is a natural derivative play, correct?
Yeah, so we talked about HEAR last week about some of the various moving parts to the story. I mentioned the high level of insider selling in the name, which I didn't like, and I think we're talking to Trend Tracker about this. He had put out a swing trade in it. For me, the issue was that the company had they released another report of very strong guidance ahead of their earnings report. And so the stock popped, and the stock has a history of popping on guidance and then kind of coming back in and then possibly popping on the earnings report, then selling off pretty dramatically. And with Fortnite kind of losing, I felt like Fortnite has kind of been losing steam as a catalyst for HEAR. And so, with momentum names, you always kind of want the opportunity for press releases and news items to kind of help propel the stock. And so I think with the Apex Legends, all the attention that it's getting will generate the type of news headlines that get people interested in HEAR again, because it will help propel this whole battle royale type of game structure that will generate additional headset sales. And the other thing is, I noticed I was actually in Target just last night, and Target is one of the big retailers of Turtle Beach headsets. And in the past, I've kind of done some, before I bought HEAR the first time, probably 9 months ago or something like that. I noticed at Target there's just so many brands that were presented there, competing brands to Turtle Beach, and Turtle Beach really didn't stand out in any way to the versus the other brands that were there. Notice that Target actually has really made much more of an effort to present Turtle Beach as kind of like the leading brand, as like the kind of the go-to brand. Now, it has its like own section, and actually I couldn't really find any other headsets there. I'm not sure kind of what's driving that kind of, that level of promotion. But the good thing about that is that you don't have, I know when we first went to buy our headsets for my son, when he first, got into Fortnite, you spend, 20 minutes looking through the different headsets, comparing the prices, looking to see what's on sale, what's not on sale, looking at the different specifications. And I think with the way Target is doing it now, just makes it for a cleaner sell in terms of, less price competition and less kind of time spending looking at competing products.
All right, so In terms of numbers, this will help us get into EA. How big of a deal is that 25 million user base? Is that comparable to Fortnite now? I don't even know what the numbers would be as far as a comparison level. I'm assuming that is good just based on the stock reaction, but I guess in terms of context, how good is that number?
Well, I think the Fortnite numbers are like, I don't know, like 150 million users now, but I mean, it's been out for a while. I think for Fortnite, it basically took about, I don't know, a month and a half to 2 months to get to 20 million users. These guys have done it in literally like a few days. They got to 25 million in like 4 days. So that's kind of, I think that's what all the buzz is about, just how quickly this thing is ramped up.
Okay, so let's get into EA then, because this one has been soaring pretty quickly. I mean, it bounced off of earnings around that $78 area, went up, tested 107 yesterday, got as high as, I believe, past 107 again today. You went in with a short initially, so did this one just get too long in the tooth?
Well, I was watching the price action yesterday, and because I wanted to short it yesterday on that analyst upgrade, just given the stock had run pretty dramatically once the first reports of the strong Apex Legends uptick adoption started to roll out late last week. And so I wanted to, I like shorting upgrades on kind of information that's already in the market. Mm-hmm. But I decided to just kind of sit on the sideline and just watch the price action. And so that upgrade got faded, and EA ended up in the red by the end of the day. So I knew that shorts who had been successful fading EA yesterday would come back to the name and look to cut it down early. And so I was looking to ride that trend. So I was able to capture that for some quick profits. And then I reversed course, thinking that the aggressive shorting would lead to a price squeeze back off the lows. And so on that second, on the long position, I didn't give myself enough room, and I got stopped out of there for, I think I gave myself about $1.60 or $1.70 risk or something, or $1.50, somewhere around there. Got stopped out, got back in, and doing pretty well on the second scalp long. So we're about 2 points in the money right now. We've been as much as 3 points in the money. So just playing the kind of the fact that you have these countervailing forces that are converging on the stock right now. The bulls who are really excited about the opportunity for Apex Legends to add to EA's revenues, and the bears who are just thinking that short-term price action is overdone. So you get that fast money moving around that creates good volatility opportunities.
Okay, does this have a compelling short interest, EA?
I doubt it. I mean, EA is a pretty big company. Let me pull up the stock stacks. I mean, it's a $30 billion market cap. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably one of the reasons it didn't squeeze quite as much as I hoped. Float is 300 million. Short interest is just 3%.
Okay, so really nothing there as far as squeeze radar potential. But considering you might have some what chart trader would call how does he phrase it? Weekended shorts in the party over the last couple of days that
exactly
that could potentially get squeezed out today. All right, from on an upward trajectory, how far do you see this one going? Where are you going to be looking to take some profit at? So I've already scaled out 2/3 of the position. I have 1/3 left, and I like to see it get close to around 103 to take off that last piece. Okay. I mean, and actually it got up to, looks like just under 103, like 102.60 before it pulled back. So hopefully we can get a little bit of a push back up to that 103 area and close it out. Okay, and your stop is at your entry on this one, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, let me get this one out there. Blue Chip Trader just posted a new trade in TME, this one being Tencent Music. And let's see, he is getting long this one, risking about $2, trading 15.93. After you and I get done talking, we'll let him dive into this one. Now, I'm not the only one who had a question on this next one that I'm going to talk about, NGL. In fact, one of our listeners wanted to talk about it, so at least him and I are on the same wavelength. So I'll ask his question. he would love you to provide some color on the NGL trade that you took yesterday. He finds the dividend yield pretty appealing. He's interested in this one as a name in the longer term. I suspect that you're planning on holding this one for some time. What got you interested in NGL? I know you follow the fixed income and MLPs and whatnot, but what got you excited about this one in particular, NGL?
So this is one I've been following for 2 to 3 years, and I've been in and out of it with some trades over that time. And it's one of those situations where the yield will get so high in this name that it makes it very intriguing, but the results tend to be very choppy. So you get up to about a 20% yield, and you're kind of just doing your work to say, okay, well, 20% yield, that kind of discounts some of the bad news. I can start to scale in here, and even if the company has somewhat of a bad quarter, the stock should bounce over time. And also just kind of playing energy prices, saying, okay, well, oil or natural gas is due to bounce. And so from a trading perspective, swing trading perspective, those are some of the things I look at in terms of moving in and out of a name like this. But actually yesterday I was confident putting this position on because NGI, this is the first quarter that I've been following them that I felt like they actually really did what they said they were going to do. And so, they've been over the past year saying they're going to reduce debt, they're going to raise their EBITDA, and they're going to create some type of stock buyback plan. And on the earnings side, they just had an exceptional quarter, by far the best quarter I've seen them have. They've gotten their debt leverage down to a level that actually exceeded their guidance. They've been monetizing assets, and so they've been able to actually sell these assets at prices much higher than the market anticipated. So they're flush with cash right now. They literally are flush with cash, and they just got approval to do a $150 million stock buyback. On the conference call indicated that they actually wanted to raise the distribution, but they just don't feel confident doing it at this point just because, the market isn't giving them credit for their 14% dividend yield. So they'd rather actually buy back stock than raise the distribution at this point.
All right, so it looks like this one has found some support around that $9 area, just looking at this one on a weekly chart and whatnot. As far as price objectives, how far out you looking in this one?
Well, so, I like to call high yield names that you buy right. And I mentioned this on the page yesterday. It's the gift that keeps on giving, right? Mm-hmm. So 14%, I'll take that until I die, 20%'s better, 30's even better, the 14's not bad. So if we get to a point where the stock appreciates and the yield is, I think, lower than it should be, maybe we're at if we got to like a 6% yield, I consider taking profits. Okay. But I don't think it's going to get there. And so the other thing about this is that, so when you buy a name like this that is in kind of turnaround mode and the actual turnaround takes hold, that 14% yield should get bid down to about a 7 to 8% yield. But then you also have the distribution growth possibilities as well. So the stock price could continue to climb over time. Of course, you always have commodity price risk, but one of the reasons I like the name right now is because oil prices have come down over the past quarter, natural gas prices have come down a lot over the past month, and yet they're still providing a very strong outlook for 2019. So I don't feel like I'm picking up a name like at, say like when when oil was 120 and everyone was giving, tremendous guidance and thinking oil was going to stay up there forever. Now I think you're in an environment where, people are much more cautious with their guidance because they understand that they have no idea where prices will be 6 months from now or a year from now. And, they shouldn't overpromise and definitely, be cautious with their guidance.
Outside of the underlying commodity risk, what are some of the other risks that are associated with this company, NGL?
Well, I mean, it's an execution risk story. I mean, obviously, I mean, so like I just got off the DCP conference call, which is a kind of a natural gas type of play. We own some of their preferreds in the portfolio, which is why I was listening to the conference call. And so they had a very disappointing quarter relative to expectations because they had higher costs than they were expecting. There was a strike on one of their pipelines, and so that really added costs that weren't being projected or factored in by analysts. So on the surface, the number looked pretty bad, but on the conference call, the company indicated that, things, quarter to date, things look back on track, and they expect the year to be very strong. And so they don't see any carryover costs impacting 2019. So I mean, NGL is the same scenario. I mean, you always have, when you're dealing with energy companies, there's always something that can come up, whether it's a storm or major change in energy prices, a strike, some type of pipeline disruption. I mean, there's always something. So you kind of have to, account for that. I think with NGL, because they've disappointed so many times over the past 3 years, the market is not, it's kind of a show me type of scenario. They're people really going to want to see execution before they dive back into it, which is why I think the price is at a level that makes it relative pretty compelling. The 14% yield with leverage lower, distributions potentially going up, and a major stock buyback plan in place.
All right, all of that sounds actually very interesting, and we probably don't talk about these type of names that as much as we probably should. And on that note, are there any other companies like this that you might be sizing up that we can actually throw on the radar and maybe do our own little homework?
Yeah, actually, I mean, the comment of DCP is one that I think is interesting. I think that the stock is down about 1% right now. It was down 2-3% earlier in the day because of the headline miss, but the conference call was very bullish. The yield is about 10%, I think. And this is a very strong management team. I think they've gotten some projects that have come online that are boosting their numbers, and they should continue to kind of see some momentum from that. So yeah, it's definitely an intriguing name.
All right. Well, Damon, you're off to a really fine start today with those EA trades, and here I think I missed it though. Your price target on here, because this one is more of a swing trade, isn't it?
Well, yeah. So with here, like I said, there are catalysts in place now with this new electronic arts games, and I think there will be more games that get rolled out that get a lot of fanfare, and so I think that acts as a catalyst for HEAR. Given the valuation of this name, I mean, it's a very cheap stock, and as I mentioned last week, it wouldn't surprise me to see someone come in and buy this one out. But given the small market cap, relatively low float, and let me see what the short interest is on this thing now. Let's see. So float is only 12 million. Short interest, holy cow. Well, what I'm seeing is over 80%. That's incredibly high. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but we know that the short interest is really high, so it actually makes me more excited about this idea. So yeah, I think that my target is I'll probably scale a piece out if we get to the $18.50, $19 area, but ideally I'd like to see $22.50 to $25 if this thing really gets going.
I wonder how hard it is to borrow. Are you able to check that out?
Yeah, let me look.
Because it may be that same type of situation that you had in, was it Tilray, where you tried and it was a 900% borrow rate?
Yeah, the rate isn't nearly as high. I mean, it's high, but I mean, it's only about 18-19%. Okay. Not a lot of shares available though. So it's one of those that if it gets running a little bit, it'll be very difficult to short, and the borrow rate will go up, and you have the makings of a potential dramatic short squeeze. A lot of negativity associated with this name, which I don't really understand why. I mean, it's like, given the valuation, it's kind of amazing that people are shorting this aggressively.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Just speaking of what we talked about a couple weeks ago back with Tilray, did you ever get any confirmation on those really high borrow rates and how it translated into any type of profitability on that?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really play out. So
Okay.
Again, I bought a small position in Tilray when I saw the borrow rate jump up to, like, I think it was over 800%. And the point I made at that time is that I just really pay attention to things more if I actually have money in them. And so even with Tilray, I mean, really the goal wasn't necessarily to make money on this trade, but to see if I could discern a pattern, so that the next time I see this type of scenario, I have a sense of maybe what to do, and I'm more comfortable making a bigger wager on it.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Tilray really hasn't gotten that squeeze play out of it. It's been hovering around that $80 area, between $75 and $80 for quite some time now. So it never really got that juice that you would probably suspect when you see such a borrow rate that high and being so hard to borrow.
Yeah, I mean, so the borrow rate fell pretty dramatically. I mean, it was 800%. Then, I mean, it was falling by the day. I mean, I think it stayed in the triple digits for definitely over a week. But then, it fell off pretty dramatically, and now you're all the way down to, so what does it cost to borrow this? Like 17%. So, I guess kind of the lesson I learned with this, just because I've never seen an 800% borrow rate. So what I wanted to do was just really see if I ever see that again, does that mean that the stock's going to go up, say, 25% immediately because shorts are just getting killed and they don't want to pay out, at an 800% rate?
Mm-hmm.
Or does it mean that this is just kind of a short-term blip that this may last a day or 2 days or a week, but then things get more orderly and the borrow rate comes down dramatically? And it appears to be the latter.
Yeah, and I believe it was a worthwhile experiment. The risk-reward on that particular thing was pretty favorable, especially if your thesis would have played out. But that's how we learn from our trading endeavors. All right, Scalp. Well, unless you have any other ideas up your sleeve, we will leave it off there.
Yeah, that's all I have, and I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, and keep those good day trades coming because you've been really really hot on a lot of those.
Okay, I'll do what I can.
All right, my man. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right, take care.